everybody, my name's Rose Smith from AbsoluteSoulSecrets.com, and I thought I'd just do a little piece on Easter. Basically, it is Easter time, and if you are watching this at Easter time now, I'd just like to wish you a very insightful and fulfilling Easter. I'll just briefly talk about the true meaning of the word Easter, in case you're not aware. The Christian idea of Easter was actually originated in, the pagan religions previous to Christianity, and they had been around in Babylonia and Samaria for thousands of years before Christianity. So it's always easier when you're trying to spread your word if you incorporate some of the pre-existing elements into your new idea. So that's what happened. But basically, there was a goddess called Istra or Ostra. Some people might want to pronounce it as, or Ostara. There's a whole host of names in different places for the fertility goddess, and people were, not long, they've been cropping and things like that. And so, if you've done farming, it's a pretty risky business. There's pestilence and there's weather and all sorts of things to contend with, so you want a good harvest. So you pray to the goddess to give you a good harvest. So that was incorporated into Christianity, and the idea of Christ dying on the Easter Friday and then being resurrected on the several days later on Easter Sunday. And so I just basically want to talk about what it really means, because it seems to get lost in, the reason we Christians celebrate Easter, which is the miracle of chocolate, according to my husband anyway, that's what he says. And basically the whole thing is about the deaths that we face on a daily basis. So it's the death of the ego, and it happens on a regular basis, almost daily. So in these ancient times, they would watch the sun set, and it would be like a death, because, never too sure if it's going to rise in the morning or what's going to happen in the early days, because they didn't really understand that the earth wasn't the center of the universe. And so it's the death of the sun and then the rebirth of the sun the next day. And the sun is actually like the ego, so the death of the ego, so that the ego can be born again or reborn the next day. So think of the sun as your ego, and also the other luminary in the sky is, of course, the moon, which reflects the sun's light because it doesn't have its own light. The receptivity of the moon, so the moon is like the soul. Okay, so, and it goes to, instead of going through a daily death, it goes through a monthly death. And so you can see that death is a fundamental part of life. So the death of the ego occurs when you have your mind set on a certain course and you think, I'm going to graduate from my, course next year. And of course something happens, and then you may or may not graduate next year, but you have your mind fixed on something. And sometimes when we have our minds fixed on something, it's just our minds, it's not necessarily the will of our soul. You might think you're going to marry somebody, or if you do marry somebody, you might think that you're going to stay together forever. And that's the mind, the constructs of the mind. So in the tarot, sometimes you'll see the Tower card come up, and that usually means that whatever great construct that you've built in your mind, it's about to come tumbling down. If you don't have intuition or psychic ability, that could be quite shocking to you, because you may not have been aware that there was problems, or that the relationship or the graduation or whatever, you had your idea and you thought that was going to happen. So it's about loss of control, basically, and loss of power. And it shows us that not everything in life that we want or we think we're going to get necessarily goes that way, because Spirit has their own agenda on their own time frame. But what we can do is we can work with the energies that are there. So I don't want to sort of upset people and say, you know, you're going into a death sort of mode or whatever, but I just want to highlight that change is inevitable. And in the tarot, that is represented by the Wheel of Fortune card. Okay, you could be either going up on the wheel or you can be going down on the wheel. And so life is a bit like a sine wave, up and down throughout our lives. The other thing to note there is what I notice as I'm, you know, getting older, getting longer in the tooth, is that the absolute peaks, high and low, the older I seem to get, the more they seem to flatten out. But I really don't want my life just like totally flat, like flatlining, like a heartbeat. That's what it's like. Life is like a heartbeat, up and down like this, you see. I don't want to be, you know, have things so flat that I'm flatlining. And I think that's probably when we die, is when we've learned everything that we possibly can, and it's just our time to go. So a little bit of up and down movement is actually really beneficial, I find. So I just want to do that little blurb and wish you all a very insightful Easter, and learn as much as you can. Spend some time in meditation, and especially if you work with other people, send some healing energy to them and your family as well, okay? And if you can, send it all around the world, because God knows the world really needs as much light as possible now. Okay, have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and a wonderful Easter, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now. Thanks so much for watching. Please visit my website, absolutesoulsecrets.com, for all things spiritual. Have a lovely day. Thanks so much for watching. Please visit my website, absolutesoulsecrets.com, for all things spiritual. Have a lovely day. Thanks so much for watching. Please visit my website, absolutesoulsecrets.com, for all things spiritual. Have a lovely day.